I would like to show you how to use a decision-making process that hopefully can help you make informed, smart decisions in your daily lives. It's estimated that we make thousands of decisions every day. Most of them are unconscious. They're more like habits that become routine patterns of behavior. For example, when you tie your sneakers or your shoes, do you tie the left foot or the right foot first? That's a habit, but it's also a decision that you make. Many of our decisions are relatively small or trivial, like deciding what clothes to wear. You know, they're important to us, but these decisions rarely have a major impact on the course of our lives. While other decisions, such as choosing to wear or not wear a seatbelt, can have a major impact on our lives. We also make decisions that can have a positive effect on other people. For example, practicing good sportsmanship towards opposing players. While other decisions can cause great harm. This was a hazing incident at a high school in New Jersey. It involved the sexual assault of the younger team members. This led to the cancellation of the football season. A number of players lost their scholarship, coach lost his job, athletic director lost his job. Certainly not a smart decision. So what does a smart decision look like? It typically has these 5 things. It's made deliberately and thoughtfully. It considers and includes all relevant factors, and it's consistent with your philosophy and your values. It leads to the desired outcome, and you should be able to explain it and defend your decision. Now, this doesn't seem really complicated, and most of us could easily follow those 5 points. So why do so many people make poor decisions? Well, often they don't have the rational or logical process to guide them to make smart decisions. And they often fall prey to these common causes for making bad decisions. Having unrealistic expectations, making snap decisions, just reacting, overreacting versus responding, taking a step back and responding, and peer pressure. For your particular age group, peer pressure is extremely powerful. You should always be aware of it. But before I can begin to talk about a process for making smart decisions, it's important that we all understand 2 forces that play a major role in why we make many of our decisions. The first is our brain, the frontal lobe to be exact. It's the front portion of your skull. It's the controlling center for problem solving and social interaction, which heavily influence the type of decisions we make. This region of the brain does not fully mature until after the age of 25, making teenagers, particularly vulnerable to making poor decisions as your brains continue to mature and develop. Secondly, decisions big or small, good or bad, consciously or unconsciously, often reflect the culture that's been part of our lives, the biases of the families we grow up in, the communities we live in, the people we associate with, and the role models in our lives. They all impact how we see and react to the world around us. Now, that doesn't mean that your decisions are predetermined or you're going to be a helpless victim of your brain or your culture. Because the more you are aware of how you make your decisions, the more control you will have over your impulses. Make unconscious decisions more conscious-like, and learn to respond, not overreact to stressful situations. It's the attitudes and the behavior that you display in the present that ultimately determine the quality of the decisions as you move forward. So be careful about the details in your life. What you choose today can impact your life forever. You can go a long way to accomplishing this by becoming socially and emotionally competent in these 5 areas. 1, don't become a victim of your past by living there. For example, children that grow up in households where there's domestic violence are actually more likely to engage in domestic violence as adults than kids that grow up in supportive and respectful households. Become self-aware. Recognize how your emotions, thoughts, and values influence your behavior. Now that begins by acknowledging who you are at this moment in time. Next, try to control your emotions. your thoughts, your behaviors, and impulses by visualizing how you should react in certain situations before they actually occur. For example, what would you do if you saw a bad post about yourself online? Visualizing will make it much easier to deal with it if it actually happens. Be socially aware. Try to take the perspective of and have empathy with the social and ethical norms of behavior of other people and their emotional state. Now, that doesn't mean taking ownership for what they are feeling. Avoid saying, I know how you feel. Only they know how they feel. Just let them know you care. And lastly, communicate clearly. Listen well, cooperate with others, and resist inappropriate social pressure and seek help when it's needed. Now we're ready to actually talk about the 6-step process that you can use to make smart decisions. Number 1, try to clearly define the nature of the decision that you must make. This step is very, very important. Next, gather all the relevant information. Collect some pertinent information before you make your decision. What information is needed, the best sources of information, and how to get it. Now, this involves internal and external work. That means you may have to reach outside of yourself to get some of the information. Next, identify the alternatives. As you collect this information, you will probably identify several possible paths of actions or alternatives. You can also use your imagination and additional information to construct new alternatives. In this step, you will list all the possible and desirable alternatives. Choose among the alternatives. Once you have weighed all the evidence, you're now ready to select the alternative that seems to be the best one for you. You may even choose a combination of the alternatives. Next, it's time to take action. You're now ready to select one of the alternatives and implement it. Finally, review your decisions and its consequences in this final step. Consider the results of your decision. Evaluate whether or not it has resolved the needs you identified in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps or the process to make a new decision. Now, there's no guarantee that following this process or other processes will always lead to making the right decision. But most smart decision makers use a step-by-step system of some kind when they're making the big and impactful life decisions, like what school to go to or who to marry. Now, let me finish with this. You will make mistakes along the way. Take advantage of the lessons that you learn from making those mistakes and use them to help you make better choices going forward.